Hello everybody! In this video, we will be talking about the future. You know, there are many different ways of talking about the future, but now we will specifically focus on the future perfect tenses. And there's you running towards your perfect future. So let's begin. We will begin by looking at the future hopes and expectations of a university student. As we read through the text, please focus on the tenses used. My future. I'm going to graduate in 2026. By that time, I will have learned everything about psychology. Then I will apply for a master's degree. Hopefully, by 2029, I will have gotten my master's degree. That means I will have been studying psychology for 8 years. In the first sentence and the third sentence, you see the simple forms of the future tense with time expressions in something and then. You will remember that be, going to, and will futures are used to show predictions about the future. The other three verbs are what we are going to be focusing on today. Let's continue. Before we focus on the structure of the language, let's practice. Please practice talking about your future using the future forms you see in the following text. Before you begin, here is a tip. Now, the by that you see in two places in this text means starting from now and including all the time before a future date. For example, by Tuesday means starting today and going up to and including Monday, the day before Tuesday. Now please stop the video for a few minutes and practice talking about your future. Now let's focus on the language. On this slide, you see a timeline. It begins today and goes all the way up to Thursday. It appears that every day until Thursday, I will read one chapter from a book. How do I express what is going on in this timeline in a correct sentence? There are many ways, and here's one. On Sunday, I will read chapter 1, or I will read one chapter. This is the simple future tense that you are already familiar with. Here's another way. By Monday, I will have read chapter 1 or one chapter. Now you will remember that by means I start today, go up to Monday with Monday as my deadline. So I'm looking at the activity that happens before Monday, which is read one chapter. And that is what we have in the sentence. This tense is what we call the future perfect tense. To recap, the time frame in the future perfect tense is starting today, going all the way up to a deadline. And the meaning is that the action will be completed before that deadline. The form of the verb is will have plus verb 3 or the past participle form of the verb. Let's take a look at another example. By Thursday, I will have read 4 chapters. The same tense, but this time I'm going all the way up to Thursday with Thursday as my deadline, and we can see that there are 4 chapters up to Thursday. So I will have read 4 chapters. The meaning conveyed in this sentence is similar. The action will be complete by Thursday this time. But there's an additional meaning here, and that meaning is that the action is repeated 4 times. We will talk about repetition a little more shortly. Let's take our analysis one step further. On this slide, we start with the same timeline, today until Thursday, one chapter every day. And let's remember our example. By Thursday, I will have read 4 chapters, which meant that the action is complete and the action is repeated 4 times, starting today all the way up to Thursday, with Thursday as my deadline. Since the action is repeated, we can call this repetitive action. Now let's take a look at another example. By Thursday, I will have been reading for 4 days. The time frame is the same, so what is different? The difference is that here I'm focusing on some kind of continuing action. Why? Because in the first sentence, I'm focusing on the individual chapters that I read. Therefore, they are each completed. In the second sentence, I'm focusing on the whole book. And on Thursday, the whole book is not finished. Therefore, I'm not talking about finished action, but I'm talking about continuing action. This is what we call the future perfect continuous tense. The time frame is the same as the future perfect tense. However, the verb form focuses on the continuous aspect of the activity. Therefore, will have been plus reading, the ing form of the main verb, is used. The meaning is that the action is not complete. Remember, I'm focusing on the whole book and the book is not finished. The activity has been going on for a while, and to indicate that, usually in this tense we see some time expression like for 4 days, an expression of duration. We can call the second type of action continuous action. If we compare the future perfect tense and future perfect continuous tense, we can say that 1, in future perfect tense, the action is complete, while in future perfect continuous, the action is incomplete. And 2, in future perfect tense, the action can be repeated or repetitive, while in the continuous form, the action can only be continuous. And that is the difference between future perfect and perfect continuous tenses. Now let's talk about some time expressions that we can use with future perfect tenses. As you can see on this table, there are a number of time expressions that are frequently used with future perfect tenses. The first one is by Monday, by the middle of next week, and similar expressions can be used to indicate a future deadline. In, on, at, we have so far used with simple tenses. However, they can also be used as deadlines, like by. For example, in June, on Monday, we will have completed the project. In plus some duration or date can also be used as a time expression. For example, in 2 weeks, we will have completed the project, in the coming decade, or in the near future. Another expression is within a week or within any time period. For example, within a week, we will have completed the project. We can also use until. We won't have completed the project until next Monday. Finally, by the time is an expression that is very frequently used with future perfect tenses. By the time school begins, we will have completed the project. Now that we have seen the time expressions used with future perfect tenses, let's make some comparisons so that we can use them in the right context. The first comparison will be between by and in, on, at. As you can see from the example, by Monday and on Monday can be used with the same sentence. However, the meaning changes. By Monday means that the activity will be completed sometime before Monday, although no exact time has been provided. On Monday means the activity will not be completed before Monday. It will be completed on Monday. In that sense, the focus is more on being complete than the action of completing. The second comparison is between by and until. Looking at by first, by Monday we will have completed the project. We won't have completed it by Monday. As the examples show, the by phrase can come at the beginning or the end of the sentence. The by phrase can be used with positive as well as negative sentences. Note that the negative form prefers the time expression at the end. Looking at until, we won't have completed it until Monday. The sentence is exactly the same as the previous one. However, the meaning is different. We won't have completed it until Monday, in fact, means we will have completed it on Monday. So there is an indication that it will be complete on Monday, while by Monday does not give that kind of information. Until expressions are used at the end of the sentence. And in the future perfect tenses, until phrases are usually used with negative sentences. The last comparison we're going to make is between by and by the time. As you can see from the example, by is a preposition followed by a noun. It makes up the time phrase. By tomorrow, by next week, by the end of the year are some examples. By the time requires a subject and a verb. Now, the structure that has a subject and a verb is called a clause. Therefore, by the time structures are in fact time clauses. When there is a time clause in a sentence, there are two actions, one in the time clause, one in the main clause. In the case of future perfect tense, the time clause acts like a deadline. Therefore, the action in the main clause happens before the action in the time clause. First the completion, then the beginning of the school. Also remember that with time clauses, we must use simple tenses. In the case of the future perfect tense, in the time clause, we will use the simple present tense. This ends my presentation on future perfect tenses. I hope it's useful in your studies.